Any true cinephile would be obsessed with Keanu Reeves. It's not just his excellent career that draws them in, but his humble and down-to-earth personality makes everyone respect him. Reeves usually keeps to himself, but recently he opened up about the one movie from his body of work that he regretted being a part of. Let's get right into it, shall we? First up, the movie that Reeves regrets being a part of. From what we've seen so far, Reeves hasn't had the steadiest film career in Hollywood. Sure, it was impressive and the roles he picked were either hit or miss, but it's been an up-and-down journey for this actor. Even though he's chosen roles spread across a diverse range of genres, he's never outright come forward with any regrets about being a part of those movies, even when some of the movies that he picked didn't do well at the box office and turned out to be a commercial failure. Of course, there are always exceptions. That's just how life is, full of exceptions. And while Keanu has been in movies that didn't move the critics, he's never actively regretted accepting those roles. And this is where the one and only exception swoops in. The actor opened up about how he wished he had never been a part of the 2000 movie The Watcher. It's an American thriller about a serial killer stalking an FBI agent. If that one-line summary of the plot has got you yawning, then listen to us and never watch this movie. Even Keanu himself would agree with us. Let's dive into the details on this mishap in Keanu's career. What Keanu himself has to say about The Watcher. In the movie, Keanu plays the role of the serial killer David Alan Griffin, who's stalking the FBI agent Joel Campbell, played by James Spader. Keanu has openly said that when he received the script for The Watcher, he wasn't particularly impressed. In fact, he found it to be incredibly mediocre and didn't give any second thought to it. Keanu's character is an insane psychopathic serial killer who murders women in cold blood and taunts the cops that he's stalking about his crimes. We can see why Keanu would have objections to being a part of this movie. Anyway, you must be wondering, if Keanu didn't even want to be in this movie, then how exactly was he forced into it? Well, folks, this is where the truth comes out. Turns out, a friend of his, the director of the movie, forged his signatures on the official contract of the movie. Reeves tried everything that he could to get out of it because look, what's the fun in being part of something that you don't even like? Feels mighty forceful, right? Now, despite everything, Reeves realized he wouldn't be able to say no and was very likely to get sued. Joe Charbonnick, the director of the movie, first pleaded to Reeves for playing a small role in his movie so that it could be properly financed. But as time went on, Reeves realized that this was no small role. Moreover, Joe had already forged his signatures on a legally binding document, and there seemed to be no way out of this tricky situation for poor Reeves. Other than that, Reeves' co-actor, James Spader, earned more than Reeves himself for the movie. Imagine yourself stuck in a similar situation. Someone's forced your hand to be a part of something, and you're not even getting much out of it. It's evident you're going to loathe that thing for the rest of your life. We understand why Reeves feels so strongly about The Watcher. It also explains why he didn't put much heart into his role in the movie. Now, on to the critical reception of The Watcher. Before making the regrettable decision of watching The Watcher, we think you should pay heed to what the critics have to say about this movie. We know this will make some of you really curious to watch the movie and judge it for yourself, and we're not one to stop you, but before you make yourself succumb to that awful misery, listen to the critics. Just this once. There are some 90 reviews for the movie on Rotten Tomatoes, giving it a total rating of 11%. You heard that right. That's a pretty low rating. In the olden times, people would have probably thrown tomatoes at the screen in the cinema. Reeves has even landed a nomination for Worst Supporting Actor at the Razzie Awards. Thank heavens he didn't actually win, because in case he had, that would have been one big bruise on his career. Renowned film critic Nick Shager described the movie in his review as one of the lamest serial killer thrillers in the post-Silence of the Lambs era. The plot was predictable and awfully generic, and there was no real substance to the storyline. There's no suspense, and for a thriller, it sure suffers from a lack of thrills. It seems like everyone's got their share of disappointments with this movie. In a way, it could be seen as karma coming back for the director, Joe Charbonnick, for manipulating Reeves into playing a role in the movie. Moreover, the movie was a financial failure. It earned around $47 million worldwide, which, considering Hollywood, isn't the big sum of money that some of us might believe it to be. In the world of cinema, it's a punch in the gut. So, there you have it. Just trust us when we tell you The Watcher isn't worth watching. Next up, we have Reeves' impressive film career. Keanu Reeves is a big name in Hollywood. It's really hard to come across people who haven't heard of this man, the myth, and the legend. Even if people haven't watched his movies, they've seen cute video interviews of him on the internet where he's being his usual kind self. He's not just any other polite guy though, he's a brilliant actor with a repertoire of movies to prove that very fact. When he first started his career, he did a lot of theater work. Some of you diehard fans of his work must already know how he killed the role of Mercutio for a staged production of Romeo and Juliet in Ontario. Did you know that he was in a Coca-Cola commercial back in the early 80s? He truly has come so far, and it reflects on how hard he has worked to get to this point in his life. He found small roles here and there in low-budget romances and crime dramas, but now he's turned into a household name. fame. Well-deserved, truly. Reeves' breakthrough began with the Dutch director Jean de Bon's debut movie, Speed. He co-starred with Sandra Bullock and received outstanding reviews for his acting. He would still pick up certain roles for various theatrical performances, but he predominantly focused on his film career. We saw him offer stellar acting performances across different genres. He worked alongside Morgan Freeman and Rachel Weisz in the science fiction movie Chain Reaction, which admittedly wasn't a big success, but Reeves still persevered. Reeves' catapult into true stardom began with his role in The Matrix. After that, he returned to the world of action thriller movies with his effortless performance in John Wick. Both The Matrix and John Wick are box office successes and contain Reeves' best performances to date. Now, onto the aftermath of the disaster that was The Watcher. Okay, so Keanu was tricked into getting involved in this horrible movie. We've gone over that already, and the circumstances surrounding that situation. But what happened after the shooting was done? Well, after the shooting, there's the promotional stage for the movie, and it includes interviews and whatnot. Some of you might be wondering why Keanu didn't speak up about this after he was forced into it. Why wait so long to share the details behind the making of this movie? And that's because, first off, Keanu was trying to avoid getting tangled in a messy, long legal battle. Those things take a definitive toll on you. After that, Keanu signed an agreement with Universal, the company responsible for the distribution of the movie. The long and short of the agreement was that Reeves was forbidden from discussing the backstory behind the movie's making for 12 months after the movie's official US release. In exchange for this, Universal decided to exclude Reeves from most of the movie's marketing. That makes sense, since he was forced to become a part of it, so it's sensible not to make him go through even more hassle for a movie he never even wanted to audition for. Moreover, Reeves was also given an additional $2 million to compensate for what he had to suffer for this disastrous movie. Let's talk about the hidden dark side of Hollywood. This entire debacle really makes one question what goes on in Hollywood. We are so glad that this fiasco didn't put a strain on Reeves' career, because if it had, then we wouldn't have gotten the masterpiece that is the John Wick franchise. It tells you how actors get dragged into dreadful situations, and despite everything, they're unable to find a way out of them. It must be awful doing things that you don't want to do. No matter how successful or how rich an actor is, sometimes they can't do anything but have their hands tied in certain circumstances. Imagine how many more actors found themselves in similar situations, and how it must have inevitably affected their careers. That's a wrap for this video. Any more questions about Keanu Reeves' career or disappointing Hollywood movies? Let us know in the comments below, and make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos just like this. We'll see you on the next one.